What's going on, friends? It's Neil Adler with another episode of Syracuse Central on the Fan Arch Network. It is Friday. Happy freaking Friday. Happy spooky Friday. Happy Halloween. All right. First of all, I just want to say thanks for your support. We've been doing this about 2 months now, really having a good time. If you feel so inclined, hit that subscribe button and please drop me comments about what you'd like to see on the show. We focus on Syracuse football, basketball, and recruiting intel here. All right, but serious question. What are you dressing up as for Halloween? And what's your favorite Halloween candy? So my son, my 9-year-old son, he's with his mom this year. I've said on here he lives in Tennessee. I'm up in the Baltimore area this weekend, so I will see him next weekend and find out what his costume was. Last year he went as one of the Cobra Kai dudes. If you haven't seen the show Cobra Kai, if you're into like the Karate Kid movies from back in the day, you should see Cobra Kai. It's really good. Anyway, my favorite Halloween candies or just candies in general. I don't eat a lot of candy, but I like Twix, Snickers, Peanut Chews on the chocolate side, and on the like candy side, I like Twizzlers and Starburst. Strawberry Starburst and orange are pretty delicious. Um, I mean, I used to eat like all this random like old school stuff back in the day, like well, I didn't eat Big League Chew. I chewed Big League Chew, and Jolly Ranchers, and uh, Hubba Bubba Gum, or I don't Bubba. I don't even remember what it's called now. And what's the thing that you dunk? Fun Dip. Anyway, I know that I just spent 1 minute 48 seconds talking about nonsense, but it's Halloween, and I like Halloween, and I want to know what you're dressing up as, and I want to know what your favorite candies are. And be safe. And happy Friday. And we got Syracuse football tonight. So Syracuse and UNC, Bill Belichick, easily the most drama filled. Well, it's interesting. I want to say he's like the most drama filled like head coach or like situation in football, this FBS football this year. But is he? I mean, just there's so much nonsense out there. Well, there's a lot of, obviously big time head coaches at big time programs that got fired and all these big buyouts, and but it's just like all this stuff that was said in the last couple of days, like by the governor of Louisiana about the head coaching search. It's a freak show. But anyway, Bill Belichick's got a circus going on in Chapel Hill. They've lost 4 straight. Syracuse has lost 4 straight. UNC hasn't won an ACC game or a power conference game. Syracuse is on a 4-game skid. We'll get into the quarterback situation here in a second. Just wanted to note some injury stuff. So some guys that, well, a lot of the guys that are listed as out on this initial report, at least. And that they've been out for a while. So, but 2 guys to keep in mind. Let me just get my notes here. So Barry Buxton, one of the, primary backups at safety, Richard Senior, he's out. And then redshirt sophomore offensive lineman Joshua Miller, transferred from Georgia. I think it was Georgia. I hope I got that right. He's out, and so he's one of the centers, on the offensive line. And then the starting offensive lineman, or excuse me, starting center, obviously he's an offensive lineman. Good Lord, what's wrong with me? Austin Collins, he didn't play in the Georgia Tech game, but he, at least on the initial injury report, was listed as questionable. So, I mean, that's something to monitor. Certainly, if he ends up being out too, who's going to be like their center? And certainly the offensive line has had issues. And as I'll get to in the next segment, we're going to see not just Ricky Collins at quarterback. So, and there's other guys on the offensive line that were listed as either, I think, questionable or probable. You know how that stuff goes. But it is what it is. Just running through here on the questionable side. Yeah, Raheem Long, sophomore safety, he's listed as questionable. I feel like that's the first time I've seen him listed. Fran Brown's son, the long snapper, Fran Brown Jr., is questionable. Gary Bryant, the third, a redshirt junior linebacker, questionable. Probable, listed as probable, which means they're probably going to play. But Byron Washington, a freshman offensive lineman. Redshirt sophomore offensive lineman Trevion Mack, redshirt senior offensive lineman TJ Ferguson, sophomore running back Yassine Willis. So they got a lot of offensive linemen that are could be slightly banged up or more than slightly. We'll see what the final. They were disclosed one late Thursday night, and then I was just too lazy to tape. I taped this before the Thursday night one. Sorry about that, but I can't imagine that the report between Wednesday and Thursday is going to be that much different, and then there'll be one Friday before the game. And more important than that, I just think the offensive line, the center spot is definitely something. So, in terms of this game, I think Syracuse is going to win. Let's go with like 23-20. I don't have a lot of confidence in Syracuse, but North Carolina's, and in the games at home, and North Carolina's offense is terrible. It's so bad. I mean, North Carolina or Syracuse's hasn't been good recently either, but hopefully they kind of kickstart things. But drop me some comments. Let me know what you think about the score. All right. So Fran Brown, as I'm sure you saw earlier this week, and I didn't talk about it yesterday because we were getting into basketball stuff, but he went on the radio earlier this week, and he definitely, was fairly blunt about the quarterback situation. And I mean, I appreciate his honesty. It's kind of like I always liked Jim Boeheim when even though people thought he was like a curmudgeon, I always liked it when he was just like very blunt about stuff. I like to be blunt. But Fran Brown said that Ricky Collins isn't the only quarterback that's going to play against North Carolina on Friday night. I'd assume that means Luke Carney, the true freshman from the Dallas area. Could it be redshirt freshman Dakari Williams? I guess. But Carney's the only one I think that's gotten snaps. Not I think. I know. He's the only one that's gotten snaps other than Collins and Steve Angeli. By the way, shout out to Steve Peanut Butter and Jelly. He got a NIL deal. It was on his Instagram with Powerade, I think it was. So happy for him with that. Can't wait for him to be back next year. Fran Brown was just like, look, I've supported Ricky and I still love Ricky and all that, but I've given him a month and we were 0-4. So we got to open things up. And he said it's all about what's best for for Syracuse. And we'll see who's starting on Friday. Last time I checked, I feel like Collins, I'm sure Collins was still listed first on the depth chart, but I mean, that's subject to change. It's projected. But it's just Fran Brown is just being real about stuff. And, and I love Fran Brown, not just because of the coaching and the culture he's building and the recruiting and all. It's because I think he's got high character. I will say, and I feel like I've said this on Syracuse Central, and I think other people would probably agree with me. I feel like we were like a little misled about things with the quarterback situation in terms of, let me frame it. So, Ricky transfers from LSU during the winter window in last December. He's named the starting quarterback in March. Later in March, during the spring window, Steve Angeli transfers. They have a quarterback competition during preseason camp, and Fran Brown says it's neck and neck, and maybe it was neck and neck. I wasn't there. I take him for his word. But then Steve Angeli is named the starting quarterback. They go 3-1. The third win was at Clemson, and he went down in that game, so he didn't play the whole game. But they were 3-1. He was leading the country in passing yards. And then Ricky comes and just struggles. I mean, I don't know how else to say it. He's got 6 touchdowns, 8 picks, completing like less than 55% of his passes. He's got some other turnovers. He's just not playing that well. So I feel like part of the issue for the fan base, based on comments I see here and read on forums and read on Inside the Loud House when I'm doing stuff there, like if we didn't think there'd be that big of a drop off with Ricky once Steve went down, and thinking of Steve and want him to get better, full recovery as soon as possible. So we didn't think there'd be that big of a drop off based on or at least what Fran said publicly, about it was super close and all that, and he's obviously was continuing to support Ricky the last few games, and then more recently and into this week, he's like, yeah, he's not ready, or he's just not getting it done. And we support him, but we got to open it up. So if if we didn't think back in the day before the season started that it was like super tight competition, then maybe like, because like after Steve went down and we were 3-1, I was like, all right, well, yeah, Ricky Collins ain't gonna lead the country in passing yards, but he'll be solid and they'll still win 7 games. And now they're going to be lucky, not lucky, but if they win their 2 home games, they'll be 5-7. If they got to beat either Notre Dame or Miami on the road to get to 6-6 to get to a bowl for the 4th straight year. And again, I'm not saying like Fran misled us. I mean, if I felt that, I would say that, and not because I'm not afraid to speak my mind too. I don't know. I feel like that it would have tempered expectations if like he said, yeah, like, Ricky played well, but Steve is just the man, and left it at that and wasn't like, oh, so close. Because then after Angeli went down, we would have been like, all right, well, brace yourself. But again, to be fair, and I'm pretty sure in the viewer, when I get into some of the viewer comments, one of our friends here mentioned that it's not all on Ricky, and I agree with that. But I mean, he still has really struggled. He's really struggled. So the team, has struggled on the offensive line. The defensive line isn't great in terms of getting pressure, and the defense has been up and down. Pass coverage hasn't been great. They're just run game's been spotty at best recently. So anyway, look to see Luke. I still feel like if I have to guess, I still think Ricky will start, but we'll see. I support Fran, and I just hope fans, if Ricky doesn't start or whatever, Luke ends up playing, like, just don't trash Ricky. Just say he's struggling or he's not playing well. You don't have to say he's garbage. Like, he's a human being. I'll leave it at that. We'll see. Should be interesting. All right, let's get into some recruiting stuff. So there's a ton of recruiting targets and verbal pledges from the 2026 class. The recruiting targets across multiple classes, but verbal commits in the 2026 class that are expected to be on campus on Friday night for the UNC game at the Dome. And I don't have a full list, but like definitely check, there's other places you could check out that probably give you a full list, because I'm just focusing on some of the higher ranked dudes. Otherwise, there's going to be like dozens of guys, and I'm not going to sit here and list all of them. But some guys to note, one is Carter Bonner of Penn Hills High School in Penn Hills, Pennsylvania, near Pittsburgh. He's a 2027 4-star athlete, top 200 national prospect. He's expected to be there. And then I had some sources confirm a few other guys. These first 3 are verbal pledges in the 2026 class. Amari Goff from Thomas Jefferson High School in Richmond, Virginia. He's a 4-star wide receiver. Their one quarterback that they've gotten in the 2026 class so far is Zaid Lott from Providence Day School in Charlotte, North Carolina. He's a 3-star QB. Carter Bashir, who's a 3-star tight end from Newman Goretti High School in Philly. And then some other recruits to keep an eye on. Some of these guys are like top 100 dudes. Like, they're good. and they all have offers. I'm not going to get into when they're offered. It doesn't really matter. It was either this year or last year. And they're all 2027. So but a couple guys, again, really highly ranked. So one is Frederick Ards. He's a 4-star edge / outside linebacker. He goes to Jones High School in Orlando, which is, again, Florida is a big recruiting state for Syracuse, and they've definitely recruited guys from Jones High School as well. And he's top 100 nationally, according to the 24/7 Sports Composite. Then you got Mekhi Brown, who's a 4-star edge as well. He goes to the Greenwich Country Day School in Greenwich, Connecticut. He's number 70 overall in this class, according to the composite. And then this is like a local, well, not super local, but local guy, and I really hope Syracuse stays in the mix for him because I always love that. Elijah Kimball, he's a 4-star running back. He's top 150 nationally, according to Rivals. He goes to Canisius High School in Buffalo. So that's kind of cool. And then one other guy, Desmond Malpress. He's a 4-star edge / outside linebacker as well. He's rated number 55 nationally by Rivals, and he goes to Atlantic Coast High School in Jacksonville, Florida. And again, these are just a smattering of guys. But yeah, those are some highly ranked dudes. Top 60, top 100, top 150. That's some of those are high 4 stars. I'm not saying they're 5 stars, but That's pretty good. So we'll see how it goes. We'll see how it goes. But it's always exciting to see these highly ranked guys on campus, and I think there's gonna be, some sources have told me there's gonna be a lot of dudes there for the BC regular season finale in late November. I'll get more into that as that we get closer to that for sure. But yeah, so hopefully Syracuse plays well, and I don't know if any of these dudes I just mentioned are on commitment watch. Probably not, but we'll keep tabs on that. We'll keep tabs on that. All right, so let me get into some viewer comments from Wednesday. Thursday was basketball, so we'll talk about Wednesday. And one was from AJ Klein, 9340. And AJ said, everyone putting the season on Ricky Collins is crazy. The biggest offensive issue is the O-line. They aren't opening holes for Willis or Nixon, and they can't pass block to give Collins time to throw. I also question some of the play calling by the offensive coordinator. Use some screens and stuff to help Collins out. Yeah, I mean, that's fair. Collins has really struggled, but it's definitely not all on him. And as I've said on Syracuse Central, part of the issue is that quarterback is the most important position, not just in football, but all sports, really. Unless you're talking about sports where you're only, it's just you, like singles and tennis or golf or whatever, some other sports. But yeah, I mean, the offensive line hasn't been good. I don't think the running backs have been particularly good. Maybe if the offensive line would have been better, Nixon and Willis would be better too. Sure, they all go hand in hand. And I also agree about like screens and all that. Like definitely some short passes, some manageable passes, some calling, some running plays specifically for him. Yeah, I think all that's fair, AJ. Okay, so this one is from Pato Inky. I hope I pronounced that right, Pato Inky. Pato says Ricky left LSU because they told him he wasn't cutting it and because he had, shall we say, multiple interactions with Leo. All that said, he's had a full year plus to acclimate himself, master the playbook, and show he's capable of, justify that $500K. I don't know did he get 500, but anyway, he definitely ain't getting that deal renewed. And given his performance since arrival on campus, if he goes to the portal come January, I bet there would be a lack of interest from potential suitors, so he might just be stuck with him. If the Notre Dame transfer guy actually comes back for next year, Ricky wouldn't likely be higher than maybe number 3. The Texas guy is gonna be number 2. Arapanian, in my humble opinion. Yeah, I mean, that's fair. Yeah, Ricky. I don't know about the 500K. I mean, I haven't seen specifics on that. I mean, I talked to people about NIL, but it's tough to get a read on like specific dollar amounts. But yeah, they paid for 2. And Ricky was, he was a 4-star prep recruit, went to LSU, was a 4-star transfer in the transfer portal. I don't know if he's had a full plus year to acclimate himself because he transferred to Syracuse in December of last year, and well, we're getting into October now. But I know what you're saying. Yeah, he probably wouldn't get that money next year, and he probably, if he goes in the portal, I mean, I'm sure he'd get interest from someone somewhere, but it might be more at the mid-major level. I don't know. I don't know. And I hope Angeli comes back stronger than ever and just crushes it next year. And yeah, I could see if Luke Carney plays a bunch towards the end of the season, I could see him moving ahead of Ricky, and I could also see Ricky entering the portal. I could, but I'm not wishing that. And I mean, other people might because they think he stinks, and I think he's struggling. But I don't like wish him to leave. It's just not my MO. I'm not like built like that. But that's just me. Anyway, so a couple more things. Steve Perlman 5218. What is the status of King Edward, like King Joseph Edwards? I don't know 100% like what the latest is. The only thing I can share that I saw on X, Twitter, is that it looks like he was invited to the North Carolina game. He put something up on there, so I hope he goes. I mean, there's like all this nonsense on Twitter about, people questioning him, or did he have beef with Fran Brown or other coaches, or was it academic stuff? And he's been very upfront that it's none of that. Unless I've like misread what he's saying. Maybe he's just got things he's working on, dealing with. I mean, he's a human being. We all got stuff. We all got shit to deal with. So I don't know. And I always thought he was, I mean, I've written a bunch of stories for him on Inside the Loud House, and I covered him as a recruit and before he committed. Like, he's just like, seems like a good human being. He's like all about community and helping others. And I'd love to see him back on the team. Absolutely. But I don't have any specific intel other than it looks like he was invited to the North Carolina game. I don't know if he's going to be there or not, but I hope he is. I'll see if I can find out more information. Okay. And then finally, Ronald Collins 2164 with another comment about the quarterback situation. You can see why Angeli went over Collins because Angeli had full control of the offense and players where Collins has neither. I mean, I don't think Angeli, like he was okay in the first game against Tennessee. Granted, it was against Tennessee, at a neutral site, and he still threw for like I think 270 yards. He wasn't amazing, but he was solid. And then obviously got more and more progressively better. I mean, I think by the Clemson game, yeah, I guess you could say Angeli had full control of the offense and the players. I definitely agree that Collins doesn't have full control of the offense or the players. I think he's shown signs, and maybe he played a little bit better in the last game against Georgia Tech. And he has like drives here and there where he makes some nice passes or whatever, but then he has fumbles or turnovers or other stuff going on, that's again not just on him. So, but yeah, I mean, the bottom line is Ricky Collins is not as good at this point in his career as Steve Angeli. It's a bigger drop off than we had hoped for or anticipated, excuse me. And it is what it is. So, but I appreciate all the comments, and I look forward to more of them, especially when we can vehemently disagree with one another. That'll be fun, right? Yeah, let's duke it out. Okay, so today's Friday. Have a great weekend. Have an awesome time trick-or-treating. If you go to the game tonight at the Dome, be safe. I'll obviously have coverage next week on the football results, but also Syracuse basketball starts its season on Monday at home against Binghamton. So I'm going to get more into basketball, split it up between the two, and definitely do recruiting in both sports. And like I said, if you like the show, feel so inclined, hit that subscribe button and tell your friends and drop me comments and feedback every single time, constructive, good or bad. I love it. I appreciate you all. Have a great weekend. Happy Halloween. This is Neil Adler with Syracuse Central on the Fan Arch Network, and I will talk to you again on Monday, friends. Take good care.